Hi, welcome back to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. In this video, we're going to go over the remaining rules you need to know to play a full game of Marvel Dice Masters. If you haven't already, you might want to go back and watch the first video in this series where we cover the basic rules. You'll find a link for that in the description of this video. But for now, join me at the table and let's go over some new game effects. Some card effects, like on Captain America, Natural Leader, refer to a character being active. This simply means that their character die is in the field, which also includes the attack zone. If an effect occurs when a character is active, it will only resolve once, even if there are multiple active copies of the die. For example, if I had two Captain Americas in the field, while using this card, I don't resolve its effect twice, only once. So my sidekicks get a single boost of +1 attack and +1 defense. If an effect occurs when you field the die, this only resolves when you move the die from the reserve into the field. Other actions that cause it to move in or out of the field will not trigger the effect. Some card effects allow you to prevent an action. In that case, all effects related to the action are canceled and they can't be reacted to. Also, any costs paid for the action are not refunded. If an effect, like the one found on this Nova card, lets you redirect damage to a new target, you're allowed to assign that damage to a new character that you would not have been able to target initially. I mentioned in the previous video that if two players have a timing conflict, maybe they both have an effect they want to resolve at the same time, then the active player, the player whose turn it currently is, gets to resolve their effect first. But if the same player has two effects that are resolving at the same time, then that player chooses which order they should resolve in. Some powers will let you reroll a die, in which case it should stay in the same zone as it initially was, unless it's no longer allowed to be there. For example, on this Storm African Priestess card, it tells us that when Storm is fielded, you get to reroll a target opposing character. If that turns the die into a non-character, you then move it to your opponent's used pile. In cases where the card effect doesn't specify where a rerolled die should go when it's no longer allowed to be where it is, then just move it to the reserve. For example, if you force someone to reroll a character die and it became an energy, well, energy is not allowed in their field, so they would have to move that die to their reserve. Some effects, like we find on Thor Odinson, allow you to capture a die. It says, when Thor is fielded, you get to capture all opposing fist characters. It turns out Spider-Man is a fist character. And when a die is captured, you place it underneath of the die used to capture it. And it is not considered in play for gameplay purposes, so that Spider-Man die can no longer be targeted. Although the capturing Thor die, of course, still can be. Unless otherwise stated, the captured die is returned to where it came from, either at the end of the turn, or as soon as the capturing die is knocked out. Some effects, like this one found on Loki, will instruct you to take control of an opponent's character die. So in these cases, the controlled die is placed on top of the controlling die, and now you get to attack and defend with that die instead. The one underneath, the controlling die, can no longer specifically be used to attack and defend because it's a little too preoccupied right now. Now, it's also possible that both players, once they reveal teams, will realize they've each brought the same character to the table. Maybe I have a Human Torch on my team, and maybe you have one on yours. If you end up controlling one of my Human Torch dice, the abilities of that die still come from the card that I brought to the table. Also, if some gameplay effect would cause a controlled die to either go to the player's used or prep area, it's returned to its owner's prep area instead. When fielding this rogue, you're told to capture an opponent's fielded character and then copy its stats and abilities. This means rogue's attack and defense will now be counted as 5 and 5. Also, when copying stats, if the die you're copying has a burst symbol, you gain its effects from the copied die's card in addition to any burst effects you may already have on the card you're using. If you're copying abilities, then you gain that opposing die's card effects. Now, I also mentioned in the previous episode that each character die has 3 levels. These are shown in order at the bottom of a character's card. So for example, these are the level 1, 2, and 3 faces for the Captain America die. So this Captain America is at level 2, and if we were told to spin up his level, we would then turn it to the die face showing level 3. This Black Widow shows an ability that causes a character's level to be reduced by 1 when it ends the attack step engaged in combat with her. Regardless of the situation, a character's level can never be reduced below 1 or above 3. Now, along with the starter set, there's also expansion packs, so you'll be able to enlarge and grow your pool of dice and characters. And so right now I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about how you can custom build your own basic and tournament teams. And this is normally something you would do privately, so your opponents won't know what they're going to face. For a basic team, you choose 6 different non-basic action cards, so they can be any mix of characters and regular actions. I've chosen all X-Men, but I could have mixed in some Avengers or Fantastic Four, even villains. But I can't put 2 characters with the same title on my own team, even if they have different subtitles. So I can't have 2 Wolverines, I'd have to pick just 1. Now you assign up to 15 dice to the cards you've chosen, but you must assign at least 1 to each. You also can't assign more dice to a card than the maximum that's shown here. Each player also picks 2 basic actions to bring to the matchup, and these also remain hidden from your opponent until you're both ready to sit down to play. If both players happen to pick the same basic action card, that's no problem. Put them both into play, each with a different color reminder card and the 3 corresponding dice. And when playing with basic teams like this, each player starts with 15 life. Randomly determine the first player, and then the matchup is ready to begin. For tournament play, you follow the same team building rules, but now create your team using 8 cards, in addition to your 2 chosen basic actions. Then you assign a total of up to 20 dice to them, like I've done here with this very Avengers-focused team. And finally, in this format, both players start with 20 life. And that's how you play Marvel Dice Masters. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below, and they'll get answered as soon as possible. And if there's some common questions, we'll put the answers directly into the description of this video, so you might want to check there first. But until next time, thanks for watching.